One. Hey, welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. Presented by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Labor's Local 663, Doak Propane, Great Southern Bank, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, Bank of Billings, and Shelter Insurance. Switching gears just a little bit, going to move into a little wrestling preview. Is that the winter sports are just around the corner here from getting ready to start practice. We go to Nixa High School and head wrestling coach Dustin Martin. Coach Martin, thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely. Glad to be on. Appreciate it.
You bet. Coach, I know there's been some changes here with regards to, open facilities and things like that. What have the Eagles been doing here as you prepare to get started here for the winter?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been kind of a welcoming change that Misha has decided to give us some allowable contact time. Here at Nixa, we're fortunate that 3 years ago for wrestling, they added in the 8th hour athletics class. So we are already able to access our kids on a daily basis just through a scheduled school class, which has been a tremendous addition. But yeah, it's been nice to have some allowable, legal contact time. So we've been going twice a week in the evenings, Sundays at 4 and Wednesdays at 6. And just, getting kind of a combination of an open mat or open facility and then some instruction. I don't like to get too ramped up and too structured this early on, as it is a long season, and I like to try to keep it fresh. So we keep it pretty light and have fun, but we do work some technique along the way for sure.
Talk a little bit about the group you've got coming back on the men and women's side. They've added Nix's added women's wrestling here a couple years back. You're also the head coach, for the women as well. And you've got a great staff as you look at that. But talk about the student athletes that you've got coming back, and maybe some that you're going to have to replace.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll start with just a quick recap of last year. We ended up finishing 3rd in Class 4, which was our highest finish to date in program history. We had a 4th place in Class 3 finish back in 2007. But, on that team, we had 6 at the state tournament for the guys, and we did lose 2 of them to graduation. Senior Dagan Fugit was a 3rd place medalist. And then senior Dylan Carter was not a medalist, but was a qualifier. So we lost those 2 guys. That's the only 2 that we lost on our entire team, though. So, I hate to lose them, but it's actually pretty good numbers as far as lost to graduation. So we're definitely excited. I always kind of break it up into, it's too early to say for sure what weight class everybody's wrestling, but I look at it as like lightweights, middleweights, and heavyweights for sure. And we're pretty heavy in the lower and the upper weights. It's a little bit more open in the middleweights as far as solidifying weight classes and who might be there. But like some of the names of our lightweight guys is, we're led by junior Zan Fugit. He's a returning state champion from last year, returning state runner-up from his freshman year. He's currently ranked 20th in the country. He's actually wrestling a showcase this weekend in St. Louis. But he's probably one of our bigger names in those lower weights. And his training partner, who's right there with him, is senior Peyton Moore. He's a 3-time state medalist. He's gotten 2nd, 4th, and 6th. So the consistency is pretty impressive. We're still chasing that elusive state title for him, and we're hoping we can capture it this year. But then we got a sophomore named Aiden Ward, who did not see a lot of varsity time last year. He was stuck directly beneath Zan Fugit, Peyton Moore, and Dagan Fugit. And so really a high-quality kid that just could not make the lineup. So I'm expecting immediate success from him in the varsity level. And then we got junior Nate Brower and senior Dylan Webster, who have both done some varsity wrestling for us, and we're expecting both of those guys to step up for us into the lineup this year.
And how much involvement, and I'm assuming that the women's wrestling is, right alongside there as far as practice. How much involvement, what have you got returning there, and what's the outlook?
Yeah. So, I've actually just spoke to a new head coach in Adrian, Missouri yesterday. He was calling, him and I used to wrestle against each other, and he's getting back into the sport. And his big question was, how are you guys, doing the girls wrestling? And like everything, there's, probably 10 or 15 different ways to make it happen. It's kind of what fits your staff and your facility. But what we are blessed to have a pretty large staff and a large wrestling room. So we do run our girls and boys side by side. At the same time, we start practice together. We finish practice together. We actually kind of divide the room. Like there's a little imaginary line, and the girls stay on one side and the boys stay on the other side. And while we do the same thing, we often we do break apart in the middle and kind of work some different techniques, or maybe even some different intensity levels of the current drill that we're doing. So that kind of works for us. And it gives us the opportunity. You know, we've got one of the most decorated girls in the state of Missouri, Ashlyn Eli. She's a 3-time medalist, 2-time state champion, hasn't lost in 78 straight high school matches. You know, we throw her into our boys practice quite often, you know, and so it allows that where they can be a part of the girls team, but also step into that higher intensity practice and kind of get them ready to go win state championships as well.
Are the numbers good? Just kind of breaking it down, you know, by class. If you've got a good turnout, I'm sure the success that you've had has maybe helped out a little bit. But what are the numbers like?
Yeah, you froze on me just a minute, so hopefully it's coming back. But yeah, numbers are great. We are senior heavy this year, which is worrisome. You know, it's great for the immediate season, and it's worrisome for next year. But we do have our numbers are smaller in the junior and sophomore, but we have some pretty good talent there. So I don't think that we'll definitely miss a lot of seniors this next year, but I think we'll be okay. High school boys, we're usually right around 45. High school girls, I think we're going to be close to 20 to 25 potentially. I know last year our junior high had 115 kids in the program, which is really an astonishing number. I think 40 or 45 of those were girls. And then I also run the Nixa Youth Wrestling Program, which we just opened up signups today or yesterday. And last year we had 150 on paper. So the numbers are strong. You know, we got good presence in the wrestling here in Nixa, and you know, the goal is just to keep them involved and get them to win some big matches.
Again, visiting with Dustin Martin, head wrestling coach at Nixa High School, and coach. Kind of, you know, as you look at the conference, you know, the Central Ozark Conference, kind of handicap that a little bit. Where do you think the power is going to lie? And it may be right there with the Eagles.
Yeah, so we're sure hoping to sway the tide back to us a little bit, but you know, the obvious front runner every year is Neosho. They've won, and I'm doing injustice to Coach Phillips because I don't know the actual numbers, but they probably won 7 or 8 state titles in the last 12 or 13 years. In the years they didn't win, they've been second or third. And so I don't think they've lost a conference championship in 8 or 9 years. I mean, they've been the dominant force. And then Carthage is usually a pretty strong second. We've been sitting right about third for several years in a row. And I really think, you know, it's we got the guys to do it this year. So it's hard to somebody that's been that dominant in the COC and state level. It's hard to say that, yeah, I think we're going to go for sure clip them this year, but that's definitely the goal. I mean, we want to be right there competing with them. And if we do lose, and we want to make sure they are, I mean, I think we can push them to the end. So we'll see how that goes.
Looking around the Central Ozark Conference on the girls' side, what's the participation like? I mean, how many schools have got girls wrestling?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a growing sport, and it's hit or miss, and it's honestly, it's probably growing a lot faster in the metro areas in KC and St. Louis. It's hit or miss in Southwest Missouri. Marshfield, Lebanon, Branson, Nixa, Buffalo all have pretty strong numbers. Then there's some other schools that don't have it at all, or maybe just have 1 or 2 girls, and so it's a little more hit or miss. The COC it requires a conference tournament be held once 5 of the member schools have a sanctioned sport. So we will be at that this year. We will have 5 conference schools that do have girls wrestling. So we will have a conference tournament. It may not be real large, but I think it's important for the growth of girls wrestling to go ahead and have that conference. And then it's now a recognized sport amongst athletic directors and other coaches. And so, as far as front runner for that, I think we're right there in the mix. We got a pretty strong team. Branson has a real strong girls team. So I think, it'll be probably us and Branson this first year, kind of duking it out, I would imagine.
You bet. Well, Coach Martin, I certainly appreciate you being generous here with your time today. I know you're in the classroom,
Right.
but I appreciate you getting on and kind of giving us a preview there for Nixa Eagles wrestling. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
You bet. You're listening to Missouri Sports Network here on High School Game Day, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage, and we'll be right back.